Hello and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. I'm Janna, and this week over at the Funkie Junkie Inspiration Ave blog, we are playing to the theme of Aren't We Lucky? So with this theme in mind, I am going to be creating a St. Patrick's Day card today with lots of different grains. If you too would like to join the creative fun, just hashtag your works at #TheFunkieJunkie. I will leave links and descriptions down in the description box as always. So today we're going to be working with alcohol ink and lift ink. To see exactly which materials I'm going to be using for our card today, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. Today, since we're playing to the theme of Lucky in Love, I decided this would be a great time to pull out our alcohol inks. And we're going to be creating a green and blue backdrop. So for colors today, I'm going to be using turquoise, stone washed, patina, mermaid, and Everglades. To start off our card, we're going to be using a technique that involves lifting. And this is one that I learned from a YouTube video, a demonstration done by Lavinia Stamps several years ago, but it was done on a gel plate. But I was thinking, if you can lift alcohol inks from a gel plate, then why can't you lift it from a slick surface like yupo paper? Okay, let's go ahead and add some color to our backdrop. I'm also going to be pulling in a bit of blending solution, and we will be using the Tim Holtz Ranger ink blowing tool to help move some of these inks around. But right now, I'm just going to turn this sideways and I'm going to start sprinkling on some colors. No rhyme or reason at the moment. We just want some color down, and then we'll see what happens when we start moving it. After that, we'll be a little bit more intentional with our color placement. But right now, I just want a background that we can kind of work off of as soon as I get the cat hair off of here. There, that's better. Okay, a little bit of green around the sides. How about some mermaid? We can give that a few splashes here and there. Ooh, I like that. And the last color that we're adding in is Everglades. I'll be very sparse with that. That's a pretty intense color. So next we're going to add a bit of blending solution. And we'll just start moving this around with the blower. The main thing with the ink blower is to go gently and just give little puffs of air and let the ink do some of the work for you. But it's nice to have this tool to just move the inks around and get a little bit of movement and play going. So this is starting to flow. I'm probably going to go in with some more blending solution. Starting to like the flow of this, but I want some more movement. Okay. Yep. Just going to go back, and I'm just using little puffs of air to move the ink around. Okay. Starting to like what I see. And we've lost some of our lighter colors, but I'm going to be bringing those back with some intentional placement. Let's see. I've got some interesting spots going on, but I'd like to thin out some of the ink, and I'll do that with some isopropyl alcohol. That'll also help with the movement and flow. I love doing alcoholic backgrounds. You never know what you're going to get, but the results are usually pretty good, and you can get that really neat flowing texture that you just can't get with sprays or ink pads. It's a nice subtle difference. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this base. It's not great, but we can go back with some other ink colors and add to this. So to do that, we're going to be going in with some stone washed. I definitely want to bring some more blue back into this. So I'm just going to take this, we're going to turn it, and I'm going to add in some little drops. And I'm just lightly tapping the ink onto here. and letting it spread out just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to go in with a few droplets of turquoise. And again, just using very small little drops to get a bit of texture on the back of this. Okay, not bad. And I think I'd like just a little bit more patina. Okay, now I'm going to go in with one of the felt cutouts on a mini blending tool and just dab up some of the extra ink and fill in a few of the little spots on the side. Since we're going to be transferring this ink onto another substrate, I don't really want any white spaces. If this were just an alcohol ink background, then I would say the white spaces would work to our advantage. But since we're transferring this, I'd like to minimize the amount of white that we're seeing. Okay. I'm liking the way this is starting to blend out. I will probably go in with a little bit more stone washed. That color I'm really enjoying. Okay, that is good, and I don't want that to spread too much, so I'm just going to try to dab that. Okay, I am very satisfied with this background. So we're just going to set our alcohol inks aside, and I want to make sure that my background is fairly dry before we move on to the next step. Now, the substrate that I'm going to be using to pull a print from this background is going to be some of the Tim Holtz Ranger specialty paper. That should give us a very clear image. Specialty paper shows up all sorts of detail, so that really should be good for getting a clear image. I've tried this technique with some mixed media paper. This is an example, and the results were pretty good. I liked it, but I'm wondering if I could get even more detail with the specialty stamping paper. So we're going to go ahead and try that. Okay, let's line this up. I'm going to put that right here. I want this going up and down. Just make sure we're in frame. Good. Now I'm going to take the alcohol lift ink, and this is the re-inker, not the ink pad, and we're going to run a line of this across the top of our paper. Now, off to the side, I have my specialty stamping paper ready to go. Because with this technique, you've got limited time for how soon you can pull the print without everything getting all muddy, because this is lifting the ink as soon as it's going down. And I also have one of the Ranger Tim Holtz brayers. This is the larger one, and we're going to use that to quickly spread the lift ink down the yupo paper. Okay, so let's go ahead and run a line of this along the top. All right, now I'm going to take the brayer and I'm going to run that down the yupo. I have to move pretty quickly. I don't even really have much time to check that I have good coverage, but if you tilt yourself a little bit, you can see pretty easily where the ink has landed. Now we're going to take the specialty stamping paper, and I'm lining this up very carefully, and we're going to press that down. That's pretty good for lining. And I'm just going to take my hand and I'm going to rub over the top while holding all of this in place, because we want that ink to transfer onto here. Now the cool thing is, when we pull this off, we're going to get a print on the specialty paper, and we're also going to get a bonus print that's going to remain on the yupo. It's going to be kind of a ghostly image that could be really good for die cutting or using in another background. All right, let's go ahead and see what has happened. I'm just going to lift the corner of this. Okay, and we're going to pull that off. So, ooh, that is vibrant. We can still see some of the lift ink on here, but that's okay. It's going to, that should dry. And down here, this is the remainder that we have left. Now, there is still quite a bit of lift ink on here, and the specialty paper isn't nearly as porous as the mixed media. So I'm going to try to pull a second generation print with a piece of the mixed media paper. So here's the mixed media, and we're going to line that up here. We're going to do the exact same thing, line it up and push it down and we'll carefully rub over the top and see what we get. Okay, and let's lift that off. Okay, really cool. We were able to get a second generation print with that. That is just too neat. Now, I'm also wondering, there's still a lot of medium sitting on here. Is this going to dry, or should I try to pull another print off of this as well? We've got 3 prints right here, and even this background with the bit of remaining ink on here is pretty neat. I think I'm going to die cut that up into flowers later. That's just like, it's very misty, very pastel. That is very interesting. All right, let's set that one aside. So I've got this, and I'm going to see what happens when I hit this with the heat tool. I'm going to see if some of the lift ink is going to evaporate. If it doesn't, that's okay. But if it does, then this background is going to be ready to go. We'll be back in just a moment after I have zapped this with the heat tool. Okay, so this dried off very nicely with the heat tool. I did try pulling a little bit of ink off the corner with a piece of scrap paper, and it didn't lift in the same way that it did when I was transferring from the yupo. So that answers that question. Transfer from yupo to specialty paper? Yes, and you get a bonus print with that. Yupo paper directly to mixed media paper, you only get the one print, but you could reuse the background that you originally started out with. These can act like a dry erase board, and once you've pulled the ink off, you could easily re-ink this and use the same piece of yupo paper again and continue doing prints. Okay, so bonus background, I'll set that aside. That will be great to create with at a later time. And let's take this one. We're going to turn that sideways. Let's see. I am going to be using a few different elements to turn this into a card. I've got some washi tape ribbon stuff from Idea-ology, and that will make a lovely border. And we're also going to be pulling in the Lucky in Love folder. Looks familiar. I think we used that last time we were here. But this is a good one. It's got the heart and it has the 4-leaf clover. This time we're using the 4-leaf clover. So I die cut the 4-leaf clover out of some Distress Sparkling Alcohol Ink Paper cardstock. And these are the results. I had some scraps, so I colored that with some green colors, and now we have our Lucky 4-leaf clover. That will be one of our embellishments. We are also going to be pulling in one of my favorite stamp sets from last year. This is the Tim Holtz Floral Elements stamp set. I want to do a border of leaves on this background, and to do that, we're going to be stamping with some Distress Archival ink. We're going to be using Rustic Wilderness and Evergreen Bough. I also might pull in a bit of black soot, but we'll see how the Rustic Wilderness holds up first. All right, for stamps, I'm going to be using this one. I like the skinny leaves on that. And we've also got this piece that kind of looks like a tree branch. I think those are the two that we're going to use to create our border. So next we're going to be grabbing a stamping block and we'll start stamping. So we'll just put this one onto the stamping block first and see what happens when we start stamping things out. Okay, so I decided I wanted to start with the Rustic Wilderness. We're just going to stamp that down and see what we get. Oh, perfect. I like the look of that. So I also want to test out the Evergreen Bough and see how that's going to look. If that doesn't work out, there's another color that I might pull in instead. But let's go ahead and see how this goes. Yeah, that's not going to show up nearly as much as I wanted it to. It's very close to the other colors of ink that I'm using on this page. It looks good, but I'd like to have a little bit more contrast. So I'm going to pull in another ink, and we are going to be using crushed olive. That should show up much more clearly. All right, let's put that back on here. Stamp on some crushed olive and see how that looks. Much better. Okay, so crushed olive and rustic wilderness. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp these on. We're going to go ahead and put this part on fast forward as we create a leafy border. Okay, here is our completed background. We've got some stamping going on here, and we have the transferred alcohol ink from the yupo paper. I am loving this fun background. Now I want to add a few pieces of washi tape around the edge, and this is going to give us our border. So just going to take pieces, rip that off, and tuck that behind the edges of our card so that we have a border to work with. After that, we will be adding our main focal points. So digging through my stash, I found some pretty old Idea-ology pieces. They are clear letters, not the marquee letters from a couple of years ago, but older than that, and they have this really cool distressed look. So I'm planning on using those as the main part of the card, and that's going to double as our sentiment. Then we have the lucky clover that I will be adding on as well. Okay, one more side, and that should be good. And to attach the clear letters, I'm just going to be using a stapler. Nothing fancy, but I think the little added industrial look of the stapler is going to give me the look that I want. Okay, and these are the letters. These are some old Idea-ology transparent letters. They are really cool. I like the way these look, and that is going to give us a interesting sentiment for this card. That's just going to go on here like this with a little bit of overlap. Okay, so I'm going to grab my stapler and we're going to start attaching these. So nothing too fancy. We're just going to take that and put that right there. And I'm just going to overlap the letters to make sure that we've got enough room for all of them to fit onto this card. All right. Yeah, I'm liking the overlap. I didn't think I'd like that so much, but it's the only way that I can fit the entire set of letters on here to spell out the word lucky. Okay, one more letter and we will have our sentiment on here. Oh, just want to line up that Y. There we go. We have our sentiment, and the last thing that we're going to add on here is the clover. Oh, you know what? I also want to add on a little bit of bling. We're going to add on a few droplets from the Christmas Idea-ology metallic droplets set. But before I do that, let's go ahead and pop up the 4-leaf clover with a few foam squares. So grabbing a couple of foam squares, and we will just stick those to the back of the clover to give it some lift. There we go. Just take those little extra backing pieces off and we'll stick that down. Just like that. That is certainly lucky. Okay, now for the droplets. Oh, let's see, is this the right tin? Nope, not this one. Oh, I do. Will the green pieces work? Not so much. I think I really want the gold. The gold is going to have the look that I want. There we go. We've got the gold pieces. All right, let's just take a little bit of collage medium. We put a drop in each corner and add our droplets. Good. So we're going to place our droplets in place, and then we can call this card done. Okay, one here, and I will need 2 more droplets, and that is going to be a completed card. All right, right there. One last droplet over here in this corner. Oh, wrong size. That's okay. Grab a different one. There we go. And here is our completed card for the theme, Aren't We Lucky? And we are certainly lucky. We have tried a new technique and we've had great success with it. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner for the new Funkie Junkie Inspiration Ave theme, Aren't We Lucky? Today we have played with alcohol ink, lift ink, and transferring ink from one medium to another. Changing substrates can change the look of any card. So, if you'd like to join the creative fun, just hashtag all of your creative works at hashtag #TheFunkieJunkie. We always look forward to seeing all of your creative makes. And if you'd like some written directions for this project, head on over to my blog at the Crafty Corner. I will leave a link down in the description box. And until next time, happy crafting!